Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life podcast. This is episode 5. I'm so excited to be here with Miss Lora. Excited to be sharing this space with you. And her story is so inspiring and amazing. And we're going to dive right into it here. And I'm really actually it's really unbelievable that this is episode 5 already. So
So exciting.
very exciting, very exciting. So what I want to do is just talk to you about your journey. You've been on quite the journey, actually, and she's laughing. She really has. The story is just absolutely remarkable. So what I'd ask you to start with is what was going on with you before this life changing event happened. Well, you actually had a life changing event happen before the life changing event, right? So
Yes,
yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
So she's had quite the journey. And so tell me a little bit about what was going on before the big thing happened for as far as medically. Tell me about what your life was like.
I was just getting used to being a single mom. My husband had passed away a couple of years prior, and so just getting in the swing of being a single mom. And um, that I guess that summer I was just working on remodeling the house I was had moved into, and my daughter had graduated from high school and was getting ready to go to college at NAU. So we were getting her ready to go, and my son was in state baseball, which anybody that has a kiddo in baseball knows that that's a lot of time in the baseball field.
Yeah, a
So
lot of time at baseball games.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot.
And you were kind of on the other side of cancer because your husband had colon cancer, is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
he had colon cancer and leukemia.
Yeah, so he had two different types of cancer. He was diagnosed with colon cancer first, and then you guys found out he had leukemia.
Correct.
And from diagnosis to him leaving this world, how long was that?
6 months.
Only 6 months. So you
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of time to maybe even comprehend what was happening. So you were kind of on the, not kind of, I don't know why I say that word all the time. You were on the other side of it where you were the outsider looking in, so to speak, to his illness and the support system for him and all of that. So I bet that was quite the animal to take on as
Yeah.
well for you.
There's just a lot of like lots of things to do, getting to appointments,
Mm-hmm.
medications, and cares that with an aggressive type of cancer he had, it was he just debilitated very quickly.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of cares that went into even
Yeah.
just keeping him where he was at.
Yeah. Lot went into that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So not only are you're, I mean, it's like a whirlwind happened, right?
it did.
And
It was
then,
very fast.
yeah, well,
And a lot of information
a
all at
lot of it.
once.
Yes, I can relate to the lot of information. Yes, and I know that it's really hard on family members because, I think about that often. It's like, oh, I've had, family members, going through my experience and what they're, what they could possibly be going through is difficult as well as the person that's actually happening with or to. So you're going through that, and then how long was it before? So that happened, and then tell me how long was it? How long had it been before you had this thing? I call it this thing. We'll talk more about what it was, but
Um, that was 3 years.
3 years. So 3 years after he passed, you had a significant thing happen
Yeah.
to you physically. So tell me a little bit about that. So it sounds like you're in the process of grieving, and grief is in layers, as we all know, right? It's
Yeah.
always going to be there in a sense. There's always going to be that because you and I were talking about it in the car about there's still emotions associated with him being gone and talking about the marriage and stuff like that. And so you're going through this. It's like 3 years you're going through, not only your own grief. Your kids are they're pretty young. How old were your kids at the time?
12 and 15.
12 and 15, yeah, very significant for them as well. So you're going through all that. And then, so 3 years passes, and then tell us what happened.
So, yeah, the summer of 2018, I came down with, it's called Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Guillain-Barré, is that how you say it?
Guillain-Barré.
Guillain-Barré. I don't know why I was always saying Gillian. like,
Because
like
it
it looked,
looks
yeah,
like
like Gillian.
Gillian.
I just like Gilligan's Island or whatever. Yeah.
That was one of the first, before I was like, oh, how it was the terminology.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
always thought it was Gillian too.
yeah.
But I was like, but yeah, it's Guillain, and
Guillain
it's just one of the people that founded it.
founded it. Okay,
So,
got it.
put a name with it. So that's just how his French name is,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, so you and I were talking about how that kind of came about, where you thought you were having some back problems, and there was some back pain happening, and
Yeah, I was remodeling my kitchen, and just painting and sanding and scooting around on the floor doing the things, and
mhm,
so I had thought that I had just tweaked my back, and it just kept getting significantly worse,
mhm.
and then I had a couple of falls because my legs were just getting weak, and I wasn't having the coordination to function,
Yeah,
and so that's as it progressed. And it took about 2 weeks before I was like really not functioning. Um, that's my experience, and some people it like does it in 24 to 48 hours, but mine was a longer onset.
right,
So
right. So so what was so we talked about this a little bit. Your thought process was like, well, I need to go to the chiropractor. I need to figure out what's going on with my back, that type of thing. So that was kind of putting off care a little bit longer because you didn't know really what it was. You were just, I think, and I know I did this too. It's like, oh, it's fine. Like I just did something small, and I think that got me in trouble for sure. In that thought process of like, oh, it's just a little thing, like it'll go away or whatever, and so that you went to the chiropractor, like nobody could really figure out what was going on,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I think in the moment it was, I was, I have all these obligations that I
Right,
was thinking about needed more priority than myself, and
right.
so it was kind of like, oh, and I guess that's probably one of the biggest lessons is learning to take care of myself,
Right. Mine
and
too.
and go,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm important to you, and
Exactly.
so
Exactly. Your health is important.
yeah.
Yeah. So you um ended up in the hospital, right? And then so tell me a little bit about, or tell us a little bit more about the hospital, and how they told you, and what kind of things they were telling you about what was going on.
Mostly, yeah, when I first saw the neurologist, he knew, he suspected because of my symptoms.
Hmm.
However, he wanted to do testing, and make clarify the test results, and so it took about 5 days to get all of those test results back
Okay.
before they started
Yeah.
treatment.
Right. So it took 5 days. That seems like a long time to find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what were you going through during that time of like, what's going on with me? Like what were you experiencing?
I was really just scared
Hmm.
of, because of the unknown.
Right.
There was just, we didn't know if it was going to get worse. We didn't know if it was going to be a permanent thing.
Hmm.
Like, how was things gonna, like,
Right.
kind of,
Right.
um, just because they didn't know.
Right.
Though they had thrown out the terminology,
Right.
so of course, everybody's looking, right, like looking on the internet and seeing what's out there about what it is, and then you start seeing all of that, seeing and intaking that
Mm-hmm.
information, and then you go, oh, well, that's really scary. And then, you know, I tried to see if there was like, oh, that's scary, but is there other stories? And
Right,
and
right.
it's there's such a wide variety of.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that last time with Lisa about how everybody's different, and
Mhm.
your experiences might be different than someone else's, and and after talking with you, that's very true, right? And especially with the amount of progress you've made. And so did they, what did they tell you about actually, let's go back a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about the, do they call it a disease, or is it more of like
They call it a
a
syndrome.
syndrome? Okay.
And the reason they call it a syndrome is because it's not really a disease. If
Hmm.
you like look at the definition of a disease,
Right.
it's not a disease.
Right.
And so it's more because it's an autoimmune
Got it.
thing. They that's why they just don't, and it's so rare, and they just don't have a lot of information about it,
Hmm.
that's why it's a syndrome thing,
Right.
because they don't know really where to categorize it.
Got it.
So it
Got
kind
it.
of has this syndrome
It's like
category.
yeah, it's a very rare
Yeah.
thing. So, what can you describe more what it is? Like what happens to somebody if they have it, and what happened to you?
So it happened. What it is that the body attacks the nerves, and specifically the myelin sheath,
Hmm.
and then it can also go into the neurons and attack the neurons. And so, like, my best description is like having a pool noodle,
Hmm.
and your dog gets a hold of it and takes chunks out of it, so it can stay just on that surface part.
Right.
Or like if he's really aggressive and he
Yeah.
rips it in half, like,
Right.
so then that's where it gets into the neurons. And then so once that happens, then you don't have the connection of the nerves, or
Right.
the nerves aren't able to talk. So I became completely paralyzed, or I was paralyzed from the neck down.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, I remember I came to visit you when you were at Craig Hospital, is that right?
correct.
Yeah, I remember that. I was just like, wow, I couldn't even wrap my mind around how that happened, and like what's happening right now. Like you were fine and now you're not fine. It was very strange, a very interesting experience. And like you've just gone through so much. And what's amazing though about it, and obviously you're moving around now a little bit, a lot more, and
Yeah.
you're not paralyzed from the neck down anymore, which is absolutely remarkable. And so that's why you're here on this podcast, to give people hope, and that there's a possibility of moving, and how important movement is. So they basically said you're paralyzed,
Mhm.
right? And then what were they telling you as far as like your odds, and like what was going to happen in the future?
Um, Baby, 80% was recovery. Um, you have depending on how much damage is done,
Hmm.
um, is how much recovery that you have.
Right.
So that's all individual, and however your body reacts
Yeah.
to that. So
Well, were they saying to you, well, you're probably never going to walk again, or it's not going to,
there's a high possibility that I wouldn't
right.
be able to walk normally again.
Okay.
That I would probably have the deficit, or like
You're
problems
right, right,
with
right,
walking.
right.
Yeah.
So, so tell me a little bit more about, I know we talked about this a little bit offline too, is like what was going on for you emotionally around all of this stuff? Like you're just like you're walking fine one day and the next day you're not. And you're like, I think you were saying you were going to a son's game or something was happening and like, there's just so much going on. And all of a sudden now you're not okay. What was on for you emotionally with all of this happening?
Mostly at that time, I was really worried about my kids because they had just lost their father, and you know, um, what was going to happen with where I was. And
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, we didn't know whether or not I would make would like survive it, because it also, like, as it impacts your, as it moves up, because it's an ascending thing, so it starts on your feet and goes up. It compromises your breathing, or
Right.
all of your organs on the
Right.
inside. So in between when they were diagnosing those first 5 days, and then the 5 days following in that treatment, and that treatment didn't work, it was really scary because we just didn't know what was going to happen, and how. But I was really worried about what was going to happen with my kids, and
Yeah.
where they were going to be, and how things were going to go.
Right.
So I
Right.
mean, we started talking about that stuff, and taking measures to make sure everything
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a difficult spot to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to that a little bit. It's, like, okay, well, you might not make it here. You might not make it that much longer. So, there's time to do a will and all that stuff. And, or, some people are more prepared than I was. I mean, I had a will, except it was very old. So whenever things started happening with me, I was like, oh crap, we need to figure this out because I don't want to leave people in the lurch.
Mm-hmm.
Especially my kids. So I can relate to that part of it. So you're dealing with, not only are your your mind is probably attempting to process everything that's happening with you. You're also like concerned about the kids and family and everything that's going to happen. And like, I mean, I can relate to that fear of like, oh my God, like this is I mean, it's a life changing event,
Right,
right?
life changing event.
And especially like, gosh, that experience of not, like, all of a sudden you're not even able to use your hands or your feet,
Yeah.
and you're just, now you have to rely on everybody else.
Yes.
So how did that feel to you to have to rely on everybody else?
It's it was very, very hard for me to ask for help. I'm used to helping others, and being there for others and
Hmm.
doing for others.
Hmm.
And so to be on the side of, like, hey, my leg doesn't feel right, can you move it? um it was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I guess in a way, I was grateful because I was painful. It really made, if my leg felt like it was in the wrong place, it created pain.
Hmm.
And so I was like, oh, somebody has to do something about it right now.
Yeah.
It wasn't a, like, oh, put it off, or
So
something like that. It
yeah.
had to be taken care of right now.
So
And
it kind of pushed you in a way to like really start asking for help right now instead of having to like
yeah.
suffer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or delay it, like I
Or
had,
delay it. Hmm.
like I was used to. Of, that's typically what I had done before. Is like, I take care of everybody else. I'll worry about
Yeah.
myself later.
Yep.
And this journey, that's one of the things that is like, no, just ask for it right now. It's okay.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like you really have been doing that, and you've come such a long way from that time of when I had last saw you. Well, not, I mean, I've seen you recently, but like, when I saw you at Craig, I was just like, wow. I mean, you've made such remarkable progress, and I know it seems slow to you. However, it's like it's pretty amazing. The results are pretty amazing. Like you're really tough, and um, we were talking about we were talking offline about how it's easy to take certain things for granted, and you were talking about how like learning how to put a pen back on a cap, like it's something that I would take for granted. And And it's just fascinating to hear that type of thing. It's like you have to relearn so many things.
So many things.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like what was a significant what for you, what stuck out to you the most of what you had to like kind of relearn how to do and
Probably the first thing that I was still at Craig was is I still didn't have my range of motion,
mm-hmm.
so I went. I was getting ready one day, and so I wanted to put my hair up into a ponytail, and um, I still didn't have the strength in my or coordination in my fingers, and so I went and I put my elbows on the counter and I put my hair in the ponytail, and it took me like 15 minutes to get my hair up into a
Right.
ponytail
Yeah.
because it was just all of that figure relearning
Right.
how to
Right.
do all of those things, the
Right.
coordination, holding the hair together, and all of the things. And
Right.
but it was like, yeah, I did it.
You did
It took
it.
me 15 minutes, but I got my hair up into a
Yeah. Yeah.
ponytail. But
Yeah.
that was probably one of the first things that was like a pretty significant
Yeah.
thing to like relearn how to do.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
or and one of the other things my mom and I always joke about is when I was able to blow my nose again.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
things. Like most people are like, you don't think about that, and it's like
Yeah, I wouldn't even have thought about that. But
taking things for granted.
yeah.
It's like I get to blow my nose by myself.
Yes, it's awesome. Yeah, we were talking about you and I were talking about brushing teeth, and you were like, God, it's so different when someone else is brushing your teeth. Like,
Yes.
you had said that some people are gentle and some people are not so gentle. So I couldn't even imagine like somebody else brushing my teeth. You
Yeah.
know. So like that's in like now you're able to you
Yep.
had to relearn how to do all those things. So
Brush your hair,
brush
brush
your
your
hair,
teeth. You know,
get dressed.
get dressed,
Yeah,
and
all those basic things that we kind of do on autopilot. Like,
yeah,
I take it for granted I can put my shirt on,
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and learning the tricks as the learning where I was at
mhm,
and learning how to do it that way
yeah,
and not going, oh, this is the way that I used to be able to do it,
yeah,
but learning this is where and these are the tricks
yeah,
of like how to put a shirt on because I only have 20% range of motion in my shoulder,
right, right,
or or that I don't have the range of motion to bend over and put my sock on. How
right,
do I get my foot up to put my sock on?
right,
Because
right,
I don't have that. My body wasn't able to put my leg up on the bed. I had to. We had these hooks, and I hooked my foot around my foot and then pulled it
right, right.
because it had different. There was like 8 loops,
Oh, got it.
and then I pulled my foot up, and then I could put my sock on.
Right,
Like it was just learning. This is where I am
right,
today,
right,
and then
right.
as I got stronger, as I had more movement, and
Yeah,
as things came back, as the nerves healed,
yeah,
then I could go, oh yeah, I can do it this way now,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just things like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating what you start, you learn all these things all these tips and tricks.
Tips
We're
and
talking
tricks.
about the bras and like you guys have been doing it all wrong. I
Yeah,
had no idea.
super super different ways of just
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
it. And then that like it made me realize that how many there's a solution to everything,
Yeah.
right? And it's just figuring out what that solution is to work
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
where I was at the moment.
Yeah.
It's like, and
Yeah.
really like that's kind of another like big lesson that I've learned
Yeah.
is like this is where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it because it's so easy to go, oh my gosh, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that, or
Mm-hmm.
I used to be able to do this, or I used to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do that,
Yeah.
and going, oh, nope, right now.
Yeah.
This is all I
Yeah.
have is
Right now.
this
Yeah.
moment
Yeah.
because
I mean, I guess, yeah, that's a challenging one, right? Because it could be easy to go to the dark side of I'm laying in bed paralyzed from the neck down. Like, what the hell, like
Yeah.
it could be easy to go to that dark place. And so tell me more about, and we did talk about this a little bit of like what do you do when you're laying there? Like if you're in that moment laying there, what do you do? What's something that you did to help yourself?
I had my support system was really great, and I love the ocean. And so they brought in a great big poster of the ocean and they attached it on the ceiling so I could look at the ocean.
Nice. I love that.
And yeah, and just the support of having those people around me and
Hmm.
sending notes or candies or
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that was just great to have that.
Yeah, I think, and I've talked about this quite a bit, is that having people around you, seeing you well, makes a huge difference, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, one of the facilities that I was in, they were just amazed at how much support that I had,
Hmm.
and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it makes a difference,
It
huge
makes a
difference.
huge difference of having the
Yeah,
support of
yeah,
just knowing that somebody's out there saying a prayer for you
yeah,
or
yeah.
wishing you healing
Hmm.
or um, you know
Well, I think it helps us to believe that we can get better, because I could see myself in that place of like, oh, am I gonna get better? However, if you have people around that are like, you got this, right? Like you've got support around you you got this, like, you know, um, you can do it. And so, yeah, I think, and learning to advocate for yourself, we talked about that's a huge piece of it too. And you were some another part of the story that we talked about too that was a little bit traumatic for you, or a lot traumatic for you, was you were put you went from hospital to a facility that wasn't so great. So tell me a little bit about what happened there.
um, as far as um, well, it was going from hospital setting, I guess, to the facility that it was supposed to be a rehabilitation, and they were so understaffed that none of that happened.
Right.
So it was more that I just had whoever visited. I was like, "Can you move me?" Because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just laying there was so hard. It was
Yeah. So you weren't being rehabilitated. You were just
no.
basically in a bed.
I just
Yeah.
was in a bed. I
So
just took up space in a bed.
yeah. So that delayed your progress,
Yeah.
right? And getting better delayed it by how long was it?
I was in that facility for 89 days.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Long time to not be moving at all,
Yeah.
right? So,
And the reason I was in the, I apologize if
oh
I
no,
interrupted,
you
but
can interrupt me anytime.
their other facilities were too full.
Oh,
And
okay.
the and the level of cares that I needed, I was not able to go to other facilities
Right,
because of that, the cares that I needed
right.
at the time. So it was a really like tricky place
Hmm.
to be in. That
Right.
at rehabilitation places, there's so much criteria that is required,
Yeah.
and some take you have to be able to do these things, and because I wasn't able to do those things,
Got
I
it.
was not
Right.
I could not go into those facilities. So, like, it made it really a difficult time to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I couldn't even imagine, like, you're already like in this whirlwind thing happening, and then now you're like, okay, now nobody's taking care of me. Like, what's happening to me right now? So, how did you finally, how were you finally able to get out of there? What did you do differently to get yourself out of there?
There was just a number of instances that happened, and I was just like, I don't care where I went, how far away I was. that I was just like, get me out of this facility because I need to get better.
Mm-hmm.
That was my goal, was like, I don't want to be paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of my life.
Right.
I want to be better.
Right.
And so we just kept looking, and then we found Craig Rehabilitation Hospital, which is in South Denver in
Okay.
Inglewood,
Yeah.
and we applied and were accepted.
Awesome.
So yeah, when I got in there, and
Yeah, and that was a way different, right?
oh my gosh, that was it was like a night and day
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the facility I was at, they were feeding me. They were doing all of the cares, and I literally, when I was brought in, the occupational therapist came in and she goes, are you doing these things? And I was like, nope. And she goes, well, you're going to learn. And
Good. That's
so
awesome.
she put a brace on my hand and put the spoon in my hand, in the brace, because, and she
Yeah.
said, you're going to feed yourself lunch. And so that was the first time I fed myself lunch in 4 months.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and it was great. I mean, it took me, I don't know, half an hour to eat my lunch or something,
Yeah.
but it was very tiring
Yeah.
to like take the spoon and bring it up, and those things. But it was like, oh my gosh, yay, I'm moving and I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
being able to take care of myself.
Yeah. So you really needed somebody to push you a little bit to start moving so that you could get better.
Yeah, and well, somebody would say, hey, you can do this,
Yeah, absolutely.
and here's how. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't hold on to a fork. I
Right.
didn't have that dexterity to hold on to a fork like you would.
Yeah.
Having the equipment, though, it
Hmm.
was like, that's the trick, right? Here's how you here's a piece of equipment that helps to do it yourself.
Right.
So yeah, it's really easy to just, with a little thing, the little brace that they had,
Hmm.
and it was great. I mean, I felt like a little, but um, 12-month-old that's learning
Yeah.
how to eat,
Yeah. Well, you had to. Yeah, you kind of did go back to being like an infant. Like
and
it's
I,
like,
and I did.
and walking and thinking and all those things.
Yeah, doing all the
All the
I
things.
think about that in my thought process of
Right.
getting better. It's kind of the same thing. You learn all of these steps as a
Yeah.
baby, or
Right.
a 2-year-old. You
Yeah.
learn how to walk
Yeah.
and all of that stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just, that's the process of just taking one step at a time to move.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think it's I think that the movement is so important, and like for me, it was like I was moving so fast. It was like, and then I got hit with this thing, and it's like, oh, I need to slow down. And I think there was some truth to slowing down, and at the same time, that stagnancy too. It's like, okay, I'm not really moving very much, and I think for you that was what was significant. Was like, I'm not moving at all. Like I can move my head, that's it, and like I just, like I am so inspired by this story because it's like you really pushed for yourself to get better. Like, because you could have just stayed there, right? You had a choice to just stay and live with that, and like not have that idea of like, well, I could get better, or I could, I got to get out of here to get better. So you had you had that intuition to say, I need to get out of here. I'm not going to get better.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so that's just really, really amazing because I don't think everybody's like that. Because we could, a lot of people could just fold into, okay, well, this is just what it is.
hmm,
And being in that medical stuff and having all the stuff thrown at you, all the information and all the what might happen to you or what's possible or what's not possible or whatever, it's kind of overload. You're overloaded with information in that part, and so I just think it's amazing that you had that instinct to go, nope, not today. We're getting the heck out of this place.
Yep.
So, and it's unfortunate that that it was short staffed and that you didn't get the care that you needed. And at the same time, you learned a lot from it, and you were like, you became an advocate for yourself, and which is so important.
Yep.
And the other thing that I picked up on that you were talking about was really being a voice to what you need, right?
Yeah.
Like you've been taking care of everybody else your whole life. It's always about everybody else except for you, right? You know, I think women have this thing. I think men have it too. However, I think women have it really like. I mean, I know I've been in that place of like it's about taking care of everyone else. I got to do these things to make sure everybody else is okay, and I don't want to put anyone out. And so you know, the lesson for you was like, nope, it's time for me to ask for what I need. And like, can you move my foot? You know, like, and you know, I was helping you inside and you're like, hey, can you move my foot? And I'm like, wow, this is awesome that you're able to be very specific in what you're needing. And that probably wasn't the case at first. It was probably not easy to do because that's not your habit. That wasn't your habit, right?
No, it wasn't my habit, and now it's the more that I've learned of like and being specific, being clear
Mm-hmm.
to have someone help you,
Right.
because if I'm not clear, then I can get hurt or
Right.
someone else can get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
because if I were to fall and on the person or that's helping me, then we're both hurt,
Right.
or something like that. That's what it's the clarity of being like,
Yeah.
this is what I need so no one gets hurt.
Right.
And so that's like the important part of that um, communication with asking for what I need. Is also learning that part of it is like, oh, I can't just say, hey, will you do this? And will you hold my foot? And people are like, okay. And
Yeah.
no, it can, if you put your foot next to my foot so my foot doesn't slide,
Right.
that's more clear than
Right.
just, can you hold my foot,
Right.
or
Right.
something
Right.
like that, or hold the chair
Right.
so it doesn't tip over when I'm
Right.
leaning on it, or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
It's like that clarity
Yeah.
of being specific about
What you need.
what I
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. Wow. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Probably makes a big difference.
And it does, and part of it's learning too. Like
Right.
there, had a couple of things that were like, oh, that's not what I meant. Here's what I meant, and
Yeah. Let's readjust. Let's readjust this.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be clear about what it is.
Yeah.
And it's still a learning experience. It's still like, oh, was not clear enough about that,
Right.
and
Right.
so yeah,
Yeah. Wow. I think I mean, that's a huge difference from like, you know, before everything happened, it was probably harder to ask for what you needed because you didn't want to hurt any, you know, you didn't want to put anybody out or make waves or anything like that. And now you're just like, no, this is what we're doing. Like,
yeah,
this is what I need. It's a matter of my life right now. So, and something you had said to me, was that you're like I am. It's about me now and about my health, and I'm first. And I thought that was really profound because a lot of times we don't do it that way because we think we're being a little selfish if I put myself first. And you've learned that like it actually has to be that way. Otherwise, nobody is going to be successful in it if everybody else is first.
yeah. If I keep taking care of my kids, or I keep, putting other people first,
Yeah.
then I'm the one that's worn out, or I'm the one that's not being taken care of. So how can I help other people?
Right. Right.
And so having that is kind of like when you're on the airplane, and I'm, you hear the scenario, but it's truly that putting on the oxygen mask, helping yourself
Mm-hmm.
first,
Right.
putting myself as a priority, so I can help other people.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that,
because if you're not breathing, you're gonna help
yep,
a lot of
you're not
people.
going to be able to help
You're gonna help
anybody.
anyone, not even yourself, because
Yeah,
you won't be alive.
you won't be breathing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
that's what been like the bit getting that, like having
Right.
that sink in, that it's not really just about putting on the oxygen mask. It really is that if you're if I am depleted, my cup is not full,
Right.
then I can't overflow my cup to other people. I can't give in the way that I want to if I'm not full.
Very
So
true.
filling myself and taking care of me helps me be able to help others.
Got it. Yeah, so important. So tell me about where you are now. So has it been 4 years?
4 years.
Okay. So 4 years ago, you're paralyzed from the neck down. So tell me or tell us about where you are now compared to where you were 4 years ago.
So now I have a lot of movement in my upper body, hands, and I'm probably like 90% at function. My hands, I still have a lot of shaking, which just means the nerves are still firing to make connections.
Right.
And but I have a lot of upper body movement below the waist. My legs, I don't have as much movement still. So, but I do use the walker. I like to get out and use the walker and do that.
But you have a lot more movement than you did before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have
Significant.
a significant more
Yeah.
movement than I
Yeah.
did before.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I can put my leg up on the couch. I
Mm.
can, put my socks on. I don't have to use the loops anymore or
Yeah.
things like that. I don't have any ankle movement whatsoever.
Right.
So I wear braces on my feet to walk,
Right.
that have a support around my ankle. So I do that when I use the walker. If I'm doing like long distance or that I know or multiple things during the day, I will use the wheelchair, just because it also helps conserve energy.
Right.
And that's just another big piece is conserving energy so I don't
Yeah.
tank myself.
Right. Right.
Um, um,
But yeah, it's a lot of work for you to use the walker, isn't it?
it's a lot of work to
Right.
use the
Yeah.
walker.
Yeah.
It's easier to use the chair.
Yeah.
And even so, I have a manual wheelchair, which means that I have to push it with my hands.
Hmm.
I also have a power wheelchair, which is just a tiny knob
Right. Right.
that, um, and so I use that at home to like do laundry and do things like that,
Mm.
just because laundry's an energy
Right.
expense.
Right.
And so if I tried to carry or move a laundry basket with a walker,
Right. Right.
it's like so much energy, right? And lifting and things like that. So with so yeah, I still use the different equipment
Hmm.
just because it makes it easier, and I'm able to do things for longer periods of time without
Right.
getting tired.
Right. Right.
So that's a big thing that I've learned is conserving energy to
Hmm.
be able to do the things that I want to do.
Right.
So yeah, if I know that I'm gonna go out with friends or something, I you know I'll use my wheelchair more than I'll use the walker, because then I can use the walker going out
Right.
with my friends
Right.
and hanging out and doing that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to put more thought into what's going to happen and how to navigate that for yourself, so you can give yourself what you need.
yeah,
Right. That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah. I mean, what a um, just having to like you had to reevaluate everything in your life, right? To just be able to like have a quality of life.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So where are you at right now? Like, so you talked about where you're at physically. How about emotionally? Like, what, like, because this is a lot. I mean, a lot has happened in 4 years. And even before that with your husband, it's like that's a lot of stuff, right? So how do you, what are the things that you do to help yourself with that emotionally? Because again, like, you and I have talked about this too, is like a lot of things out there. We talk about the medical side of things, but we don't really talk about, okay, well, what's going on for you emotionally with the, like, what are you, how do you cope with it? Like, what are the things that you do to help yourself just day to day, like to not go into fear? Because I know that that can be easy to do when when you have something like this happen. Is God, like, you know,
Yeah, fear or feeling sorry for myself, like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I can't do this or
yeah,
can't do
yeah,
that or those kind of things. I do a journal a lot. I do meditations and reaching out to friends
hmm,
and family that just are supportive
hmm.
and can say, "Hey, remember when you couldn't blow your nose?"
Yeah,
Especially if I'm
yeah,
feeling sorry for myself.
yeah,
Like
yeah. It's
it's
like, well, now
like,
you can blow your nose, like, yeah,
and then it's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't blow my nose, and now
yeah,
okay, yeah, I'm feeling sorry for myself that I didn't have the energy to go through the whole grocery store with the
right,
walker, or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, it just takes time
yeah,
to build up the endurance and do those things, and so yeah, it just um, and once you're an alumni of Craig, yeah, like I get to go back every year,
hmm,
and that's really helpful to be able to go back and say, "Hey, I'm this is what's come up over the year, and this is what I'd like to be doing. How can I do this?" And so, like, I like to be outside and be in nature and do those kind of things. And I've been very fearful of doing those things because I don't have the balance or the coordination
right,
or things like that. And they're like, they always have a solution. There's always something that they can do. So I got a bike.
that's awesome,
So
yeah.
I can go on bike rides now. And
Yay, that's so awesome.
so,
I love that. Yeah. Gets
it's
you outside and
gets me outside and
yeah,
doing that. And they taught me how to get into the swimming pool so I can um, go and swim at the swimming pool
mhm,
without having to find a pool that has a lift that um,
right. Because
brings
not
me.
all of them have
Not all
those.
of the pools have it. So
Right,
how do you get into the pool with the stairs? Because once the water hits my legs, then I even lose more stability.
right,
So it's like learning and retraining my brain that I'm
right,
fine.
right,
It's okay to get into the pool, like
right,
doing things like that, and just learning what's going to be safe, what's safe for me to do.
right.
And but yeah, mostly my support, my friends that are helpful, of like, hey, you weren't able to do this. What about
Right.
this? Or hey, I have this friend that might be able to help you do this. Or
Hmm.
it's just finding that and finding somebody that helps
Yeah.
to go, hey,
Like it
and
gives kind of gives you like another way to look at it versus just because I think I've had that too where it's like I'm just looking at it one way and I'm not seeing anything else. It's just that like okay, this sucks, and you're not seeing anything else. And I do think and we've talked about this a lot on the podcast about how important support is. And I'm hearing what you're saying about like it's like giving yourself grace, like hey, yeah, it's okay, don't beat yourself up, you didn't get through the whole story, but look at how far you did go. And having a support system to say hey, like you're not giving yourself enough grace here, look at it this way. Like I mean, and like I said, like we talked about, well, 4 years seems long, however really not. It goes by fast, right? And you've come such a long way. And I know, like, when you're in it, it doesn't seem like that because it's like little tiny victories, right? Like,
right,
and I think for you to, as we were talking, it's like you've learned how to celebrate the small victory, like well, I would think it's actually big, but like putting a cap on a
On the
pen was
pen,
a
yeah.
big victory,
Hmm.
and being able to blow your nose like you talked about and brush your teeth, like those are like, huge, right? So,
The big deals, and it's yeah, remembering that um, the each thing is an accomplishment, and we all have
mhm.
bad days. We all,
Oh yeah, right,
there are, and it's not discounting that you're having a bad day, but just not staying there,
right,
and
right.
making
And we're
sure.
all human.
Yeah, we're all
We're all
human,
gonna
and we
have a
all
bad
have
day.
the bad days, and
Right.
things all suck. I mean,
Yeah,
they just
sometimes they
do.
do. Yeah.
It's part of the process,
Right.
and but not staying there,
Right, not
and
staying there.
getting out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think and you said that you made a really good point too about like, it's like this is what we're doing right now. It's like it's not like I'm not gonna feel sorry for myself. Because if I feel sorry for myself, I don't move. I don't really make any movement, right? Um, so I think the big victory is like you're just continually to move. You're continually moving, and that's what's helped you get better is to continually move. And like that moment of like I'm not staying here. Like this is not where I'm staying. And I had that too a little bit where it was like I know if I stay here, if I stay in this spot for too long, I'm not gonna move. I might end up here. so
Hmm.
so I think that was really great that you had that uh, wherewithal to just go, yeah, I'm gonna keep moving.
Hmm.
What even if it's just a little millimeter, tiny bit, I'm gonna move somewhere. I'm gonna do something. And so I think that's really good that you've come to that spot. And another thing that I think that you're very gifted at, as we've been talking, is that you have this ability to, because you've learned so much in the past 5 years, and you've taught me some things too around resources, is something that you don't always like when you're not going through something like this. You don't think about all the resources. I mean, we were talking about the handicap sticker, and you were like, "Yeah, you can get it for this and that." And I was just like, "What? I had no idea you could get it for that. Like, that's crazy. Like, you can get it if you feel dizzy. I had no idea." So, that you've been doing this a while, where you look into things and you research, and you've also you were talking about somebody that you had helped with vehicle stuff.
Right.
And so tell me a little bit about that, like how you help somebody with that, because I think that's really cool.
Yeah. One of my friends that I met at Craig, he also had guillain-barré. He had it more than I did. He was on a ventilator and had a trach, and but I had posted a picture of when I was relearning how to drive, and because you have to go through the driving and learn how to drive with the hand controls
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, I don't have any function in my feet.
Yeah.
So you learn how to do it with hand controls on the steer that are attached to the steering wheel, and he didn't know that there
Yeah,
was hand
I didn't
controls
even
that
know that.
yeah that are available
Yeah.
to be able to drive,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was like, where do you get them? How do you do that? That is so cool.
Yeah.
And can you fit them on tractors? Because he's a farmer and he has I don't know what he fields, but anyways, I had known that you can actually even put it on tractors. So
Wow.
he reached out and in the area that he lives in, and he has hand controls in two tractors and his truck now. So he's able to go ahead and
Yeah,
do his
I
farming
never would have thought of
and
that.
and
Yeah,
and drive himself around.
that's
And
awesome.
which like I talked to his wife too, and that like thinking about family, right?
Yeah.
How much that having that independence, she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a game changer of having
Wow.
him be able to drive instead of her having to figure out kids and taking him to
Right.
his appointments and his things like that."
He
So
gets to he gets to have his
and
independence of
his
working
independence
and stuff.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's huge.
it's a huge like
It's huge.
piece of like
Yeah.
independence that again what we take for granted,
Oh yeah.
right? Like,
So many things I'm learning. I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of that. Um, yeah, that's amazing that you were able to help him with that. I mean, it seemed like you just never know. Like again, like with the story, it's like you just never know who you're going to impact. And I think that that resource, just knowing that, like I could tell people now about that because I didn't know you could do that with a tractor, or I just you just don't think of those things until something like that happens to
right.
you or affects your life in some way. And then you're like, oh, yeah. So now I have that resource. I can pass that on to other people. So I think that's why it's so important to share the stories.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I want to come back to the car. We'll do that in a minute. But I wanted to ask you a couple things about, or just a couple of, like, if you could tell somebody something about what you learned the most about going through this experience. And I think you touched on some of it, but like just give me a couple of things like that stick out to you the most of what you learned about yourself and like just life.
Mostly the probably the biggest thing that I've learned is speaking up for what you want. Um, no matter how small it is, what if you want orange soda instead of grape soda, or if you want a black pen instead of a blue pen, just say what you want, because that's don't shove it aside. Just don't discount that. Oh, it's just a blue pen. No, really, if you want the black pen, use the black pen.
Yeah.
Or if you want the grape soda, then
Yeah.
you,
That it's okay to say what you
it's
want. Yeah.
okay to say
Yeah.
that this is what I want, instead of just kind of, oh, this is all they have, or oh, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or
Yeah.
um, what, you don't want to cause a rift or something. You're When I didn't speak up for myself,
Mhm.
I was discounting myself,
Yeah.
and so being able to say, nope, I'm I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask for this
Yeah.
or that. It's saying, hey, I'm important,
Yeah.
and I am an important person.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's probably been my biggest learning experience, is that I'm not just a object in the room.
Yeah, like
I'm a person, and
right.
I matter.
Yeah, it's like yeah, when you were in the first place, the rehab or not rehab, it wasn't rehab, nursing facility. It was like, wait a minute, like somebody's got to help me here. Like I couldn't, like I couldn't even imagine. Like so that pushed you to go, wait a second, like this is not okay with me. So I think that's a that's a huge turning point for you. I think it's
Yeah,
like no, wait a minute. I do matter and I do want to live my life. I don't want to just stay here and rot, right? So I think that's a huge lesson and I think there's a lot of people that could relate to it. I know I can because I've been that way where it's like I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever and I think we talked about that a couple times during the interview is like it's just a huge thing for people like
for
yeah, to
yeah,
take responsibility for everybody else.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like what just crossed my mind was like, even I probably people can relate to, is like, what do you want to have for dinner? What do you want to have for dinner? Where do you want to go out to eat? Where do you
I
want to
don't
go
know.
out
Where
to
do you
eat?
want to go?
Yeah,
I don't want to go.
oh, you do that, and it's like, oh
Just
my
stay where
God,
you
would
want.
you just say, I want to go to Red Robin,
Yeah.
or I want to go to Texas Roadhouse?
Yeah.
You say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, it's
Yeah.
like even little things like that, that it's like, just say what you want to do, or
Yeah.
that's even like the whole kind of point
Hmm.
of that it's like, I watch my kids do that, and I'm like, you guys make a decision, do something. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Just pick what you
It's
want. It's
just
all
pick what
right.
you want, and we'll roll with it.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that just it was like a more relatable thing than
Totally. Yeah.
just saying, a pen or something.
Yeah.
That scenario is like a huge thing that now I'm just like, okay, I want spaghetti.
Yeah,
Or,
you know what you want. Yeah, yeah,
just making a simple decision like that is
yeah.
like, instead of spending 15 minutes trying to decide where you want to go to dinner or what you want to
Well,
have
yeah,
for
because
dinner.
you're wanting to make sure everybody else is okay with the choice. Yeah,
Because 90% of the time at a restaurant, you could find something that everybody's going to be able to eat.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
just decide where you want to go.
yeah, just make a decision. Yeah, it's
So,
awesome. All right, anything else that
um,
sticks out to you about, what you learned or what you are learning? Because we're all in the process of continuing to learn.
well, kind of in the aspect of it's saying what you want is being clear too.
Yeah,
Of like when I'm asking for help of um, like navigating a new space that
hmm,
I'm not used to,
right.
and being able to say, I need you to hold your foot against my foot so it doesn't
Yeah,
slide. Can you get me a chair to be able to walk in, different stairs, or
right.
um,
It sounds like, yeah, that sounds to me like it's just learning how to communicate effectively.
effectively,
Right,
so that everyone's safe and
right,
that someone understands where I'm coming from,
right.
and just being able to be that clear.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's still a learning process. Like sometimes I am not clear about like what I need, and then go, oh geez, and have to re-navigate the situation and
Hmm.
go, oh yeah, this is what I need,
Yeah.
and be able to,
And I think that's a lesson for everybody,
yeah,
not just if you have a medical issue. Like everybody needs to hear that. It's like, how many times are we not in communication very clear about what we want or what we're needing? And I think a lot of we could save a lot of time if we are just, hey, this is what I want, like, and this is what I need, instead of beating around the,
yeah.
you know,
Instead of going, what do you want?
yeah,
They
yeah, yeah,
could kind of bring it back to that dinner
right,
scenario.
right,
It's just being clear. I want to
right,
go to this restaurant
right.
or have this kind of food for
Yeah,
dinner.
I think, I think that there seems like there's a lot of freedom in that expression of not suffocating yourself, like not pushing it down and like being able to just say what you want versus like holding it in and holding it back. And I think that's critical to health. Period. Is that we are not hiding things or pushing it down, or like we're able to just let it out. You know, um, like I never thought I would even do a podcast because of that. Like I would hold myself back so much. And I think you could relate to that as well, as like just this holding back process and how it really does, at least my belief is that it really does impact your body when you're holding that stuff inside and you're not, I mean, not just with dinner, but just with your feelings and like
Mm-hmm.
what you're wanting to say. It's like, no, what you have to say matters, and your expression counts. And so, thank you for sharing that. And is there anything else as far as like a lesson that you've learned from this experience, or um, anything like that you want to add?
Even in expressing what we need and what we want, is being kind.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there's no reason to be. That was it was always brought up to me like that. I was so kind and I was so
Hmm.
thoughtful, and you know, my caregivers were like, "You're so nice," and how you have such a positive attitude. And I think for in that, there's no reason to be angry and frustrated, because what you have to say is important,
Hmm.
and saying it in a loving, kind way
Yeah.
is like, it's just it's just being,
You're,
respectful,
yeah, and you're more likely to get better results.
and getting the food.
Yeah, you're more likely to get better results if you're kind and loving versus angry and frustrated.
Yeah,
So for
and
real.
that's what I'm like. That's what I told them. I'm like, it serves me no purpose to be
Hmm.
angry and frustrated
Yeah.
about not being able to move.
Right.
So just saying, hey, I need my leg to not hurt. Can you move it?
Yeah.
Or, I need my water closer so I could drink my
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
or, whatever it was. And just being able to not, just not be angry about it,
Right.
because it didn't serve me and it doesn't serve them
Right.
to, or the people around you, not even just like my caregivers, but I guess caregivers are your friends and family too, because that's who's there, that's
Yeah.
who you're with all the time, is whoever you're around, is just to find the loving kind way to express what you need and want,
Hmm.
because what you need and want is important.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Like, yeah, let's ask for what we want in a loving, kind way instead of a demanding, mean way.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's
Because it
super
doesn't serve
important.
anybody.
No.
It doesn't help anybody. It kind of like sets off a chain reaction of,
Yeah.
in a yucky way,
Yeah.
instead of the chain reaction
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I feel like
loving
it,
and kindness.
yeah, I feel like it just promotes more suffering and more angst, more like, yeah, like you said, yuckiness. It's like we're not really moving anywhere when we do it that way.
Yeah.
So, and that happens. I mean, we're human, we get frustrated. So, and that's where forgiveness comes in. It's like, it's like, okay, I was frustrated. Please forgive me for that. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
so I wanna just start wrapping up here a little bit, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how how I could support you, and we talked a little bit about this offline, how I could support you, and how anybody out there listening or watching could support you. And I know that we talked about the car thing, and that you don't have a vehicle right now that you're able to use because you don't have one and you don't have the resources to get one at this point. And so you've created or your family and friends created a fund to donate to for this specific purpose, because I think that you're amazing and inspiring and you're going to help lots and lots of people.
Thank you.
And I think it's important that you have your independence and you have that ability to. One of the things that you said to me was, I really want to be out in nature more, and you don't want to have to rely on somebody to always come and get you and take you. And I really do think that your independence is so helps you thrive. Like, I think for me, that was for me too. It was like, God, I just really want to walk to the kitchen when I was having my issues. And when I was able to do that, God, I was just like, God, I feel so amazing. Like, and I'm only walking a couple of feet to the kitchen and I feel amazing. So I can imagine like being able to have a vehicle where you can drive somewhere and you don't have to rely on anybody to do it. You can just get it in your car. You can go to the mountains if you want. You can go visit a friend, whatever it is that you want to do. And I know that those are a little bit difficult to come by, and you got to have the hand thing, which I didn't even realize was a thing. And so you have to have a special vehicle for yourself because your legs aren't functioning at the level they need to be functioning to even like do the brakes
Yeah.
and the thing, right? All the
Right.
things.
All of the
All the
things.
things. So where could somebody go to if they wanted to donate to you or to donate to for the vehicle? Where could they go to do that? And I know it's on your phone, so that's fine if you want to.
Yeah, let me. So it is um, helphopelive.org, and um, the campaign, my campaign, and then I don't. Should I read the whole
Yeah, I would read the
thing?
whole thing, and what we'll do is just read it out, and then what we'll do is we'll post it in the thing because I have. So we're on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify. We're on all the platforms, and so wherever I can post it, the link I will post it.
Okay.
So we will do that, and we will also share the interview on Facebook as well. So I'll mention it in there as well. So if you want to just go ahead and share it for whoever's listening.
Okay. Um, helphopelive.org /campaign /22125.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you didn't catch that, that's okay. We will. we will put it on all the things and all the
Yeah.
links
All
wherever
of
they are.
it.
We're kind of everywhere. So anyway, that pretty much wraps it up. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
I just want to say thank you so much, and I am so excited and happy for you to start this. This is amazing. So
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And like, it's just been such an honor to be, witness to your story, and it's so inspiring. And I heard somewhere that inspiration's from the inside out, not the outside. Like, because a lot of times you think it's from the outside, it's really not. It's from inside of you. So you truly do exude that, and like I am just amazed at your progress, and I am looking forward to more conversations with you and our friendship, and just to continue to keep
absolutely,
going and keep helping lots and lots of people, because that's what we're here for. So
that's it. Yeah,
turning the mess into a message,
absolutely.
right? So thank you again for being here, and yeah, that concludes this one, and I hope to see you guys all in the next one, or you could all listen to the next one, whenever that is.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for being here.